Our country is bleeding with patches of corruption. Fellow Ugandans, rise up. Rise up and fight the graft of corruption. Rise up and fight the impunity and make corruption a risky business. Rise up and demand for government commitment in the fight against corruption. Rise up and point a finger at the corrupt persons. Billions of money lost every day would have saved a life of that mother who died while giving birth because of the poor health services. The impassable roads claiming lives every day at the expense of corruption. The under-facilitated education sector that has affected the quality of education. Rise up and together we break the chain of corruption in our mother nation, Uganda.
Corruption is not just fought by government. It is a responsibility of every citizen of this country, of every institution of this country, to make sure that it pursues its business with integrity.
And on a number of occasions, our government says they don't have money. But the question is that if they say they don't have money, how come we see huge sums of money being stolen and hardly any action being taken? If money is meant for education are stolen, then the levels and quality of education is going to go down. If money is made for health are being stolen and no action is being taken, then obviously the health service delivery within the country is definitely going to go down. So broadly, monies that are being stolen every other day without action being taken, without these monies being refunded, negatively affect the provision of service delivery, because all these monies are meant to improve service delivery within the country.
Some cases is utter theft, and it should be called so, that so and so stole, and not say there was corruption that happened in a certain place. Some people think it is bribe, when actually somebody stole public funds.
Corruption must be looked at two ways. Who demands a bribe? Who delivers a bribe? The demand and supply. And I think that much concentration has been directed to public corruption. But the role of citizenry in terms of the responsibility to make sure that they demand accountability has been low. So there is a need to engineer citizen action to make sure that barazas are more effective and are holding public officials to account. And three, one of the key ways to really defeat corruption for me is to let the roses of freedom blossom, of media, of information, access to ferment of information by the citizenry. We, for instance, have already a robust media infrastructure in place. My own point of view is that these FM stations, including 60 TV stations, including 3.2 million people who are on Facebook, who are on Twitter, they need to engage in a very serious conversation about corruption, share information, liberate budgets. For instance, if the Minister of Finance is sending capitation grant to schools or money to schools, this money should be published, information shared with radio stations, such that head teachers and schools know that the money has been released, and when they account, it should also be published, such that accountability is really two-way.
Awareness around, first of all, the Anti-Corruption Act. How many people know about it? The definition within the act of corruption. How many people know about it? So we need massive sensitization. We need this Anti-Corruption Act translated into all the languages. We need media to always have something aired around anti-corruption, and it should not only target the outcome, that is those who receive the money. It should also, target those who are going to give. So we need to prevent corruption. We do not need to wait for it to act, and then we are prosecuting, and then they have the money and they can, buy themselves off. Okay, so we need to prevent. We need to apply prevention and preventive lens in terms of. Two, we do not need to glorify the people who have benefited in a corrupt manner. We must condemn them as committers of mass atrocities. They are no different from rapists. They are no different from burglars. They are no different from robbers. They are not. They are murderers. They are mass murderers of our society. So that is how we must look at them. we should not glorify them at all. And then we must avoid, where we know really, we must avoid to invite these corrupt people to our events or go to the events. We must shun them. We must avoid them. Then finally, where they have business, do not continue to buy from them. So we must do what it takes collectively to ensure that we curb corruption. We block, it must have a zero existence.
Corruption starts from the homes, starts from the families. If you have your children at home and you're not treating them equally, you are giving favors here and there, then when you go into an organization or are given a responsibility in a specific office, what will happen? At the end of it, you find like it is just growing cancer that you're able to see in the organization, even in the civil society organization. And because there's no clear voice or message that we need to carry out, you find it is just talking about it, but nothing's being done. So it has to do with the individual taking initiative to change. If it's an organization, to build these moral values and ethical practices to make sure that you're corruption-free. There are cases here of some of the institutions where you know that if you're corrupt here, you'll not survive. Yeah, you go to URA, you'll be sure that. But to go to police, what is happening? I'm sorry to mention. But you know that that's where their life is.
Enguzi eva ku musaara mutono mu bakozi gwe bakolera kyekintu ekikulu ennyo. Oli toyinza kumugamba nti akolere emitwalo 20 nga te school fees asasula emitwalo 8. Ekitegeeza aba alina okulya enguzi asobole okusasula school fees. Ate enguzi ya wano yeeyitidde kuba gw'ogimukaka yakulaga mateeka nti amateeka gagamba bwe gati kaliwo kenyini gw'omunyigi wenyigiriza noga nti kankwebwa ekiti okole ki onyambe. Ekyo kimu. Ekyokubira amateeka ge tulina manafu. Parliament erina kuddayo ekola amateeka agakwata ku nguzi naye nga go manafu okusinzira mu nsi ezitwetoolodde endala. Amateeka ga Uganda manafu ku nguzi.
Now, what we have is white-collar corruption, and white-collar corruption is really very much, high-tech. They use modern technology. They try to go behind and circumvent, accounting systems that are in place. So at the same time, much as we have an expansive legal regime in the country, we definitely need capability of anti-corruption institutions, including the police, the investigative arm, the IGG, and others, to make sure they have got the capability to, first of all, investigate, but also prosecute corruption.
The problem is with actually enforcement and implementation. If you look at the data tracking mechanism report that was released by the Inspectorate of Government 3 months ago, it actually showed that there's a very big problem when it comes to implementation. The laws are in place, but when it comes to implementation and enforcement, that is where we are lacking. And as long as we do not implement and enforce, having these very many laws on the shelves will not actually go a long way, will not actually get rid of corruption within the country. If you look at a country like Rwanda, they don't really have as very many laws as we have, but there's political will to fight graft. In case a person is implicated, they will actually step aside. In Uganda, it is the reverse. We've had situations whereby Parliament may make recommendations, and guess what? The executive comes in and gives contradicting or contrary directives that actually undermine the institution of Parliament. Now, the reason why levels of corruption are going to continuously again increase, if we don't have the doctrine of separation of powers within the country, to note who checks the executive. If the executive continuously makes directives that are undermining other arms of government, then corruption obviously is going to continue thriving. So the challenge is not with the laws, but actual will to enforce and to implement the same laws. But then also, we need to understand that the same institutions that are supposed to implement or to enforce have also been riddled with corruption. If you look at the Transparency International East African Bribery Index of 2013, police and judiciary are coming out. If you look at the Inspectorate of Government reports that have been produced, again, police and the judiciary, so you find that the same agencies that are supposed to curb corruption are also riddled with corruption. So it still becomes a very big challenge.
Corruption obuzibu bwetuleetera nti ensi yaffe tekulaakulana. Ebintu sente zaanikulaakunyizza ensi yaffe zitwalibwa abantu ab'olubatu. Ne kiba nga kikosa amasomero, enguudo nga bw'olaba amakubo gaffe mmotoka nnyingi tetulina we tuyita sente zandikoze amakubo zonna zigenda abantu ab'olubatu kubanga etteeka bwe liba liyise nti omuntu alidde sente za gavumenti bamuwambeko ebintu bye byonna n'abooluganda ababa bali mu famire bakole ki babawambe ebintu era tekisobola kukola kubanga oli abakimanyi nti nowe banaamusiba emyaka olugwako akomawo ki akomawo n'akola ki n'asanga bizinesi nga zitambula naye oli bwaba bamusiba n'amanya nti agenda kuddako nga ali ku zero tebasobola kukola ki tasobola abakyakulabirako eri abalala.
We have seen ministers. They have been pointed at that he's corrupt. Tomorrow you'll find he's in another position. The next day you'll find he's promoted. So also as we are wondering as citizens, is it that is government part of corruption? Is it promoting corruption? The civil societies have come up. They have talked and they are still talking. The videos have talked and they are still talking, but government itself, we are seeing it has no will to actually elevate corruption. We are seeing a lot of government officials involved. They are not punished. They eat the taxpayers' money, they move, no one has punished them. They are not taken to jail. They are just even promoted to other ranks or other ministries. So for us as citizens, we wonder and we want to ask government and we want to know, it could be that it is part of this organization. Because in each and every ministry we find corruption, 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 corruption. So I don't know if it is by design.
Nze ngamba nti nno twalibadde tulina system ey'okubeera nti nno tulongoosa obukulembeze okuva waggulu ne tubeera nga wateekawo obukulembeze obufugibwa mu regions. Obukulembeze bwe bunadda mu kufugibwa nga buli mu regions tujja kuyambibwa, abantu bajja kubeera n'omwoyo gw'eggwanga. Abantu bwe banaabeera n'omwoyo gw'eggwanga bajja kubeera nga basobola okwekolamu omulimu okulwanyisa enguzi. Ne tugamba nti nno luli bwe tuba nga ankole ku luno yeefuze ne tugamba nti omukulembeze ttaamu eddako katumujje mu Buganda. Tugamba nti ate ttaamu eneddako endala nti genda kuva mu West Nile. Bwe bajjanga otuwa abakulembeze abaveeyo.
We have documented the billions of monies that has been, swindled. When we look at this one of the bicycle scandal, how much billion, how many healthcare, units would that put? I was in Mulago Hospital the other day. A woman came and delivered just on my leg because this nurse is so overwhelmed, underpaid. There are so many people. So in terms of the effect of corruption on our healthcare services, it is very pathetic. In fact, we should all be prosecuted for that.
You will find that in some areas, corruption, take a good example for these people who are sick with AIDS. We remember very well what happened behind. Some minister and his friend and his colleagues, they ate all that money. Up to today, it is still affecting. We have lost a number of people. People are not getting drugs in some areas. And I think also it's one of the effects of corruption.
One of the core impacts of corruption is that it deprives of national resource utilization. By this I mean, like, if you know that in every year we do budgeting. Now we have these budgets passed. You hear 4-5 billions allocated for health, allocated for education, allocated for housing, ministry, transport, ABCD. Now, when corruption comes in, it means the set targets in the national budget framework would not see anything. And not only that, what does this mean to a poor man who is contributing tax? It means the taxpayers' money is just not going to be put to use. You're exploiting them.
Corruption is very bad for development because where there is corruption, you are not going to have foreign capital. Foreign capital in a globalized system moves to places where the law works, where there is rule of law, and rule of law means that there is fairness, means that there is equity. So where you have corruption and you have individuals who are asking bribes from investors, investors cannot go to such countries. It is the reason why people like Lee Kuan Yew understood it, you know, in that Asia conglomerate economy, and understood that if you provided better rules and better roles of equity and fairness, foreign capital and investors would crowd Singapore, and that is what happened. So, foreign investors who want to invest their money, they want to invest it in sanitized markets, in markets that are governed by a legal regime that is competent, where judicial institutions to arbitrate between emerging, interest in businesses are credible. In spaces where such legal regimes are not working, foreign capital is very limited. So yes, to be able to reach the middle income country, to reach developed country indices and step, we have to manage the cancer of corruption.
What is the effect of such activities or such criminal actions? It certainly is negative. It's largely negative. I said if you corrupt some people's minds and they do not think well, they do not view their country as theirs, and then they are demoralized, either in an organization, either in a community as LC, or in a home, you will have corrupted their minds. Secondly, at the national level, the effect is that it affects service delivery. It affects the rate and scale of development in a country, because money is diverted from what it is meant and it is diverted into private accounts. Yet it is money, budgeted and voted and allocated to certain services. So the long-term effect is that it stagnates a country's growth and development. It causes decay. It causes malaise. People give up. They lose heart of their country. Sometimes they don't love their country. They even label that the country is corrupt. Yet, that is too much.
No, what you need to do is, again, going back to the basics and ensuring that there's the will to enforce. Because if these laws are in place, then these laws should not work in isolation. The laws have to work in conformity with what the law says. But I think that the basic issue is implementation and enforcement without fear, without favor. And again, we need to see the three arms of government working hand in hand, but again, being independent. The other issue that we need to see is we want to see particular offices working independently. If you look at the Inspectorate of Government, right now there's a clash, between the Inspectorate of Government and the Attorney General. Both of them are supposed to fight one issue, which is corruption, but you find that there's contradicting conflicts that are coming up within these two agencies. Now, as the members of the public, we are obviously losing out because these officers, rather than giving legal advice, we instead see the Attorney General coming in and politicizing the issue, and then to know that the Office of the Ombudsman is one that has been put in place and mandated to fight or to make recommendations relating to corruption.
We have lost many institutions in Uganda because of corruption. Everybody thinking because of his stomach, what I can say. Because look at the industrial area which was in Jinja. Because of the corruption tendencies within the country, right now we've lost each and everything. We hope the government should bring any act to counter the situation of corruption within the country.